Good morning. See this bowl? It's Lunéville faience, made right here in France since 1728. And this morning I want to tell you several stories that are really the same story about how humanity found color, lost it, found it again, and, well, we're losing it once more. It's the story of ancient pottery and Renaissance textiles, of sailors' treasures and grandmothers' china. But it's also about Native American pretties that helped establish legal rights and why this little old lady traded plastic convenience for something far more precious, the right to live in color. Our story begins 5,500 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. The Halaf people created pottery so magnificent it would make your heart sing. Look at these patterns. Burgundy gazelles dancing around golden flowers, fish swimming in terracotta seas. Picture the scene. Families gathered around the fire, sharing a meal from these gorgeous bowls. And as they ate, the food gradually revealed the artwork beneath. Dinner wasn't just sustenance, it was a daily encounter with beauty. But then came what we call civilization. Temples, bureaucracy, efficiency. And you know what happened to the pottery? It became ugly, mass-produced, utilitarian. By 3500 BC, most people were eating from crude, bevel-rimmed bowls, basically the styrofoam containers of the ancient world. Beauty had become the privilege of the powerful. This pattern repeated throughout history. Medieval Europe was a world drained of color. Most people wore rough, undyed wool, browns, grays, the occasional murky blue. Their plates were pewter or rough earthenware. Color was for kings and bishops. Living in this old French house, I can imagine what life was like then. These thick stone walls kept out the cold, but they also kept out the light. Windows were small, candles were expensive. Life was beige. People weren't making art with their daily lives anymore. They were surviving. Just like those ancient Mesopotamian farmers serving the temple, medieval peasants served the manor. And their reward? Gray bread on gray plates in gray clothes. Beauty existed, but it was locked away in cathedrals and castles. The common people lived in a world as colorless as those beveled-rimmed bowls. But then came the age of exploration, and everything changed. Sailors returned from China with porcelain so fine, so brilliantly white with such vivid blues, that Europeans called it white gold. Can you imagine seeing Chinese porcelain for the first time after centuries of rough brown pottery? It must have been like discovering color after living in black and white. And the textiles. Indian printed cottons with bright flowers. They called them Indiennes. Imagine European women who'd worn nothing but rough wool and linen suddenly seeing cotton printed with roses and parrots in crimson and gold. The French went mad for it. They discovered kaolin clay near Limoges and began making their own porcelain. Faience workshops bloomed across the country, in Quimper, in Rouen, in Moustier, and Luneville. Suddenly, even a farmer's wife could own a plate decorated with flowers. And here's what I love most. It became social. The French invented the vaselier, those beautiful cupboards designed to display your colorful dishes on the wall. Your pottery wasn't hidden in cabinets. It was art on display. In the evenings, people would take their promenade, a leisurely walk through the village to see and be seen. Ladies would wear their most colorful clothes, even if they were just patchwork skirts sewn with remnants. Everyone wanted to participate in beauty. This hunger for beauty, for color, for what one might call pretties, was universal. Across the ocean, the Native American tribes were equally enchanted by European trade goods, not just the practical metal tools, but the colorful ceramics, the brilliant glass beads, the decorated fabrics. Let me tell you about the Tunica people of Louisiana. In the 1700s, they had a special relationship with the French. They were allies, trading partners, friends. and the French rewarded this friendship with the most beautiful objects they could provide. When archaeologists discovered a Tunica burial site in 1968, they found something remarkable. Alongside practical tools were thousands of glass beads, European ceramics, decorated pottery. The Tunica had been so enchanted by these colorful pretties that they buried them with their loved ones. Now, some might say this was just about wealth or status, but I think it was about something deeper. The same human need for beauty that made French farmers display their colorful plates, or medieval queens hoard Chinese porcelain. The Tunica understood what we've forgotten, that beautiful objects feed the soul. They are so important to their identity that they accompanied the dead into the next world. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. For generations, the Tunica Biloxi people struggled for recognition. The government didn't believe they still existed as a tribe. But then came the discovery of that treasure trove of beautiful objects. The very fact that their ancestors had treasured these pretties enough to bury them became proof of their continuous cultural identity. These colorful beads and decorated pots weren't just pretty objects. They were evidence of who the Tunica people were. The archaeological study of the Tunica Treasure helped the tribe gain federal recognition in 1981. More than that, it inspired the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, NAGPRA, which recognizes that beautiful sacred objects aren't just artifacts in museums. They're part of living culture. Think about that. People's love of beauty, their need to surround themselves with colorful, meaningful objects, became the foundation for legal rights and cultural recognition. Those pretties our practical modern world might dismiss as frivolous, they were identity, they were heritage, they were proof of human dignity. Whether it was the French patchwork skirts, Tunica burial beads, or Chinese porcelain in a European castle, the pattern was the same. Beauty became democratic. You didn't need to be wealthy to participate. A farm wife could piece together scraps of precious Indians into a patchwork skirt. A Native American could trade for a handful of colorful beads. A potter could paint a simple bowl with a bright yellow flower. My grandmother had a quilt made from feed sacks. The flour company started printing beautiful patterns because they knew women would sew with them. Even in the Depression, people found ways to bring color into their lives. People understood that beauty required care, required ceremony. Sunday dinners meant the good china. Special occasions meant the colorful tablecloth. Beauty marked moments as sacred and made them memorable. But then came the 20th century's promise of convenience. Why wash delicate china when you could use paper plates? Why set a proper table when you could microwave dinner in plastic containers? We threw out our wood furniture and replaced it with formica-top tables and melamine Melmac dishes. We told ourselves we were being practical, efficient, modern. But look at what we traded away. Once again, just like those ancient Mesopotamians, we chose utility over beauty. We went back to eating Our Lady bread from equivalent of beveled rim bowls. We painted our walls beige, bought mass-produced furniture, ate from identical white plates made in factories. We convinced ourselves caring about beauty was frivolous, old-fashioned, a waste of time. But the Tunica people proved something important. Caring about pretties isn't frivolous. It's fundamental to who we are as human beings. It's so important that it can establish legal rights, preserve cultures, and prove our very existence. Here in France, I discovered what I'd lost. Every Thursday, I go to the village market in the nearby town of Boussac. I buy vegetables from farmers who arrange them like works of art. I carry them home in a wicker basket a neighbor. I serve soup in bowls made by the potter 3 villages over. I use fabric napkins. I light candles, not because it's a special occasion, but because why shouldn't Tuesday dinner be beautiful? The evening promenade still happens here. Think of the cafes in Paris where people sit, and not only do they drink their coffee, but they people watch. People dress nicely for their walks, not to impress, but to participate in the daily ceremony of community life. Beauty is still democratic, still accessible, still valued. I'm not advocating we all move to French villages, though I highly recommend it. But we can choose beauty over convenience. We can choose ceremony over efficiency. We can choose to honor the pretties that make life worth living. Thank you for watching, and as always, please like and subscribe.